Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I am doing great, Frank. How are we doing today?
We are doing good.
I love it.
People laugh when I say, how are we doing? Like, what do you mean we?
Jumping right into it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's when I use the word we. It's like, yeah, because if you're not doing good, I'm not doing good.
That's exactly it, right?
So that's why it's a we thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
So today's going to be a fun episode. We thought we'd kick today off with a clip. So we're gonna dive straight into it today, guys. Today's exciting. So this first clip is by Neville Goddard. I'm sure everyone tuning in is familiar with Mr. Neville Goddard. Frank and I, we've talked about Neville several times on this show, and we thought this would be a good clip to kick things off. This clip is talking about how the world is a reflection and the world is a mirror. This reality that we live in is like a mirror.
Yep. So we're going to see what reflects back, and then we'll comment on it. So here we go.
Let's dive in.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world is a mirror, a grand reflection of the inner workings of our minds. As we navigate through life, it is crucial to understand the profound truth that the world around us is a direct reflection of our inner state. If you wish to change the world around you, you must first change what is within. When your self-talk is filled with positivity, confidence, and belief in your dreams, the world mirrors this back in the form of opportunities, successes, and fulfilled desires. Consider for a moment that everything you see, experience, and encounter is a reflection of your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. The world mirrors back to you the contents of your consciousness. If you wish to change the world around you, you must first change what is within. Imagine standing before a mirror. The image you see is a direct reflection of your physical self. If you smile, the mirror smiles back. If you frown, the mirror reflects that frown. This simple yet powerful concept illustrates a profound truth about our reality. Just as the mirror reflects your physical appearance, the world reflects your inner state. Your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are mirrored back to you in the form of experiences, relationships, and circumstances. This concept of reflection is not limited to our conscious thoughts alone. Our subconscious beliefs and assumptions also play a crucial role in shaping our reality. Often we are unaware of these deep-seated beliefs, yet they powerfully influence the world around us. For instance, if you harbor a subconscious belief that you are not worthy of success, the world will reflect this belief by presenting obstacles and challenges that seem to affirm your unworthiness. Conversely, if you hold a belief that you are destined for greatness, the world will reflect opportunities and pathways that lead to your success. It is essential to recognize that the world does not act independently of our inner state. It is a faithful mirror, reflecting back what we project. This means that by changing our inner state, our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, we can change the reflection we see in the world. If you desire more love in your life, cultivate feelings of love and gratitude within yourself. If you seek success, embody the qualities of a successful person in your thoughts and actions. The world will faithfully mirror these inner changes back to you. Our assumptions wield incredible power. By assuming the feeling of our wish fulfilled, we set the stage for the world to mirror our desires. This is not mere wishful thinking, it is a deliberate act of creation. When we assume that our desires are already realized, the mirror of the world has no choice but to reflect this reality back to us. Assumptions are the foundations of our reality. They form the lens through which we view the world and, in turn, how the world responds to us. When we hold an assumption, we are essentially creating a belief structure that the world must adhere to. These assumptions are not passive thoughts, they are active forces that shape our experiences. Consider for a moment the simple act of assuming success in a particular endeavor. By fully embodying the feeling of success, by seeing yourself as already successful, you align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with that assumption. This alignment creates a powerful resonance that the world cannot ignore. Opportunities, resources, and people who can help you succeed are drawn into your life, reflecting your inner state of assumed success. This concept goes beyond positive thinking. It requires a deep, unwavering belief in the assumption of your wish fulfilled. When you assume the feeling of your desire being already accomplished, you are effectively programming the mirror of the world to reflect this new reality. The world becomes a faithful servant to your inner state, reshaping itself to match the assumptions you hold. The power of assumption can be seen in every aspect of life. Whether it is health, wealth, relationships, or personal growth, your assumptions set the boundaries of your experience. If you assume abundance, the world reflects abundance back to you. If you assume lack, the world mirrors that lack. It is a simple yet profound truth that what you assume to be true will be reflected in your reality.
Yeah, so obviously if you guys been listening to the show, you've probably heard these concepts, all right? And there is major truth to this, but we're gonna pick it apart and see about that, all right? Like, how do we relate it into our everyday life? Because conceptually, everything sounds great. And a lot of times when you're listening to this stuff, because I notice about myself, when I put on some like Neville Goddard or read his book, I was already wiggling into that state and everything sounded so profound. But then going back to old ways of thinking, old habits, this stuff sounded ridiculous.
Yep.
Right? So it has to do with what state we're in. He talks about that all the time, because the assumption of how you feel is the state we want to get into. So when it's more love you want, you already come from a place of lack. So when you drop the lack, you're already in a place of abundance. It's a natural byproduct of how we work into that. So what I do with myself now is when I notice that I don't feel abundant, I recognize that that belief is a lie. When I drop it, I automatically go into abundance. So it becomes easier than trying to muster through lack. You know, how much lack does it take to get abundant? I'm like,
that's the world we're taught, by the way.
Yeah, that's what we're taught. So I could spin in my head in a state of lack and try to say I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, and that will not work. When I get into a certain state by letting go of lack, like to suspend it, like, hey, I don't have no money right now, but it's like, you know what? Just take your mind off that. Right now, you got your health, you got this, so you start focus on what you have. All of a sudden, you notice the energy in your body change, your heart opens up, and then all of a sudden you realize, I don't have enough money was a lie. All right? But then you'll be like, yeah, but the mortgage is due next month, and then you go back into the other state. It's understanding what state am I in when I'm actually looking out at the world, when I'm examining what's happening. So when we go inward, we can change whatever state we want. But we keep thinking, what happens? This happens, Again, when I'm in the state of Arizona, I'm not really too worried about it raining. Mm-hmm. But if I was in the state of Washington and I was waiting for Arizona to come to me, that's problematic. All right? And I'm just comparing from, Arizona is a desert, most of it is, and especially the Phoenix area. And Washington is very rainy in most parts of it as well. There are high desert areas, but the Seattle area, all right?
Exactly.
So understanding what state you're in is going to mirror what
you experience. Yeah.
So check your state. Assume the wish fulfilled, assuming the state. So if I want to see sunshine 300 days a year, in my case, I had to let go of New York, and come to Arizona to switch states. But I was waiting for New York to have an average of 300 days of sunshine. Maybe in 5 million years it might.
I was going to say, you'd be waiting a real long time.
Yeah, and it's a struggle.
And that's where we're at, like waiting on the world to change.
Yep.
That John Mayer song.
There you go.
I love that song because it's so powerful. We're all sitting around waiting for this world to change. We're not being the change. We're not implement. We're not at the state. We don't get ourselves into the state. We think we need to earn that state, and out of enough moments of lack, at some point we're going to be worthy enough to feel abundance, and that's not the case whatsoever. And I like that you brought up in the beginning, Frank, how you were talking about like essentially this sounds. So when you first hear these concepts, like when anybody hears like the concepts that are shared right here, like the world is a mirror, everything's a reflection, etc., there's something in us that knows this is true. And I've experienced this throughout my life. Like when certain things get shared to me or were shared with me, I knew there was something there. But it's not, it's the it's the habits, it's the old patterns, it's the it's the subconscious beliefs that Neville was talking about in that clip that pull us off and pull us away from that state of abundance, that state of worthiness. And so it's a matter of changing poor habits and recognizing, being aware of our thoughts. Like Frank mentioned, that like this thought is not true. This is just a thought that's arising. That after repetition of letting go of those thoughts and now feeding the self-talk, more positive software or programming, that we begin to experience these opportunities of abundance, these moments of success, these moments of love, these moments of true inner peace. So it's like developing a sense of awareness that, okay, this is how reality works. If I want to experience peace, I need to be peace. But while you're being peace, you're going to have self-talk saying, oh, this doesn't feel right. Are you really at peace? You don't deserve peace. You haven't earned peace. And it's being aware that, hey, that's old programming that's coming up. That doesn't mean I'm not worthy of peace or I don't deserve peace. And when you don't feed any attention to that negative self-talk, it begins to fall away. And so whatever you feed is going to continue to grow. Wherever you put your attention is going to continue to grow. So you have to make this conscious, active effort to stay in the state of peace, despite what your head's telling you, and even despite what this reality is showing you, because the reality will change based off of your state. And so you need to maintain that state long enough in order to begin to, there's almost like it's like a delay outside of you. Like we have this delay outside of us. And where we're coming from is how we're going to experience this screen, this reality that we call, the world. And it works off of a delay.
Yeah. And there's actually a direct route here. So let's just take Neville Goddard, for instance, right? Here's a guy that wrote many books on it. He studied the Bible. It was Abdul, the rabbi, who taught him how to differentiate or change the way you look at the Bible. Now, Neville Goddard lived in New York City in an apartment. He wasn't like a multi-millionaire. So it's like, okay, why didn't he do that? He died at 79 years old. Why didn't he live till he was 100? Because there is a formula that we all come in here to live. There's a path we all came here to live. Money didn't really, I've heard him say this many times. Money wasn't his thing, but this working. So, in other words, it's like an actor coming to a set, and I use this analogy all the time, and they're getting ready to play a role. What it is any role they play before, they have to peel away. So this is not adding more information or giving my focus onto something else. It's letting go of New York is how I got to Arizona, right? So once we let go, the natural state of who we are appears. And then when that appears, it generates higher energy. And then you follow that path. The sense of letting go of everything else is the definition I call of success. Then from there, let's see where it takes you. Because people are limiting themselves to success to getting this amount of money. Well, then you get that amount of money, and say you get that money at 30 years old, and say you think you're going to live till 100. Well, now you have 70 years to go with that money. I'm like, that ain't going to last. I don't care how much it is. So now you have to
keep a lot of pressure.
Yeah, now you have to generate another whole idea. But if you actually fall back into who you are, why you came here, with zero insistence on what's going to happen, what's going to transpire, the people come into your life, the money will come into your life, everything will come into your life accordingly. What it is thinking it's got to be this amount, it's got to be this person, it's got to go this way, is what's generating distress in the body, to where even if we have, because a lot of people that are successful, that don't feel it, they're comparing themselves to somebody else, and then anyone around them will look at them like, what are you, ridiculous? I remember Jennifer Anderson, I remember listening to an interview with her. And
Jennifer Aniston, like the lady from Friends?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
She felt that she was never pretty. Well, to everyone watching, I'm like, is she insane? She was a gorgeous woman. Mm-hmm. So, but that's how she felt. it still didn't change that she was pretty. It just felt how she changed about it. So inside, she never felt, I shouldn't say never, but at some point she didn't feel comfortable. If she felt comfortable enough talking about it, like in front of the interview, knowing millions of people are going to possibly listen. Mm-hmm. Those are the falsified narratives that are in her head. When you relieve those, you're already successful. Let's see where this then takes us. So like Neville Goddard wasn't a multimillionaire. And like, so understand when you go to utilize these practices, don't use an emphasis, this is what I have to be. If you become a multi-billionaire, it was part and parcel of your story. If not, let it go. Like seriously, let it go. Because chasing that will set you back. It's like when The Secret came out, everyone is still hung over from that thing. Like, they sat on the couch wishing to be a millionaire. Why? Because they watched MTV Cribs. And they wanted that house. They think having that house will make them feel better.
Yeah, we took shitty programming that was given to us, and we said, oh, I need to achieve this programming in order to make it.
Your life will be more fulfilled if you have 5 Ferraris and stuff like that. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with having 5 Ferraris. If that's your gig, if you're really into cars and stuff like that, and that's your path, go do it. But that will not create peace. More money will definitely create more comfort, right? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you go back to who you are, you'll never be lacking anything. So keep that in mind. Don't use the outside world to make you feel better. Go within. That's what Neville Goddard is talking about. Assume the feeling. And then all of a sudden, open up your eyes and see what the world, see what the conveyor belt, so to speak, is moving towards you, and then act on it. That's the brilliance of it. Don't look, okay, this person over here, they're living a great life. You don't know. You don't know if somebody's wealthy and they're happy. Actually, I just heard, was it Chris Williamson? He was on Joe Rogan. Just Friday. Yeah, it just popped into my head. And he's like, the reason we use money and things, it's an easy marker. So you can see someone like in a Ferrari. I'm like, they must have a lot of money unless they stole it. They're wearing nice clothes. They have a big house. Those are markers. But the one thing you will never know, and I thought this was a brilliant comment he said, is you'll never know how they feel. That's something, there's no outward expression. So what happens, everyone wants to show the world they're successful by collecting all these things. And then presenting them out. Look at my house, look at my car, look at my family. They're all this and that. But yet they could be crushed inside, because if you're actually showing off all this stuff anyway to prove to people you're successful, you're hurting inside. You're really hurting inside. So do not use the outside world accolades to measure success. Use the assumption feeling that's in you, and then watch the experience that happens unfolds in front of you. Because the Ferrari will come, the Ferrari will go. The lover will come, the lover will go. Because, with my wife, I have to keep renewing my relationship every day with her. Because if I didn't, if I placated it, held it to the assumption where the first date we met, I'd be screwed right now, because that was over 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. So every day it's a renewed vow. And that's how, you wonder how people stay married for a long time. They renew it every day, and then when you start getting snippy, it's like, hey, what's going on? Like, hey, I have to go back to that peaceful place. And then it's like an actor stepping onto a set and they're not hitting their mark, and the director's like, cut. Hey, what's going on? Sorry. Okay, take a deep breath and action. Go back into that role. And we get really good at this. You'll never hear cut. You'll just hear take. Move on to the next scene. All right. And action. Mm-hmm. Take. Move on to the next scene. So, and if you hear cut like 10 times, who cares? It doesn't matter. Don't get upset at that either. But notice how you feel. Work on that. And as you start to peel all these beliefs away, who you came, why you came here, you won't know the whole story. It comes out. And you're peaceful. And then your job or will pull you in this direction. And your whole life may be pulled. Like, there are people that are people that create a life and they build something. All right. And that's great. And then there are people that nomadic, where they travel around, and that's great too. You might be part and parcel of both of them. One isn't better than the other, but know who you are. You may have came here to be nomadic, and now you're trying to build a kingdom, and you wonder why you're struggling. Where the guy that's building a kingdom isn't struggling, it's because he came to do that. So once you start to peel all this stuff away, you'll know and realize, wow, okay, maybe I'll be nomadic for the first part of my life and then build a kingdom later, or never do that. We don't know. But every time, and this is my personal experience, every time I'm letting go of everything, I feel really good. And all the things happen, right? Like Neville Goddard said, things start happening. But then I see somebody that, maybe doing something kind of like what I'm doing, but they built a kingdom out of it. And like mine's, it's like building a restaurant opposed to a food truck. All right? I'm like, well, maybe I need to get a brick and mortar, whatever. And also when I think that, I start to feel bad. That's my internal guidance system saying, you're going the wrong way. Mm-hmm. There may be a down the road where that comes out and it feels good, then do it. And so the way we feel, once you stop peeling everything away, you get so sensitive to feeling, you'll know if you're heading on the right track or not. And then my job is to stay in that state of peace. Obviously, breath work really does really well. If I get my nervous system perfect, I could step on the field and play my perfect game. I don't know what that perfect game is going to be like till the game is over. But if I show up to a game hungover, I can tell you right now, it's going to be nowhere near my perfect game. So I could just write that one off. And why did I show up hungover? Because I added so much chemicals into my body. And the hangover for the psyche is so many thoughts that you can't go in. There's so much coming at us. Should we own? Should we sell? Should we buy? Should we do this? Oh, what should I do? I'm like, let that all go. You'll know what to do in the moment. Mm-hmm. And we're bombarded right now with information.
So much information.
Yeah. But the beauty, the brilliance, me and Mike were talking about this earlier, the brilliance is it's so much that we're forcing ourselves to let go of it. Mm-hmm. Years ago, it was easy for me to maintain, keep adding information, and my life kept getting heavier and heavier. I throw it in my backpack because I had to remember it. Now I'm like, I don't have to remember a damn thing. I have Google.
Not nice.
What's funny, we're sitting on the couch with my wife and watching. I'm like, I know that guy. Like, I'm trying to figure his name. And then I'm like, I'm Google. No, you can't Google it. You have to figure it out. I'm like, we're going to torture myself to figure this shit out. Like, why? All right, fine, I'll play the game. Now the TV show's paused and we don't get through a damn episode. That's
the truth.
Yeah, and it's not that there's something wrong with our brain. The way our mind is designed to utilize the information that's coming out as right now. So yeah, if I was playing a game of Trivial Pursuit, I probably want to open my mind to let stuff come in. But if I'm watching a TV show and focused, now I got to play a game of Trivial Pursuit. Like, I know that actor from somewhere, or how old is that actor? And I'm like, yeah, Google it. Get on with your day. It's there. Where years ago it wasn't. So, years ago you didn't ask the question, how old is he? Because,
whatever.
You may have guessed, oh, they look like they're this age. Mm-hmm. But now it's like we have so much information readily available as we're trying to jam it into our brains, and why we're like, oh.
Well, that's the thing. We're walking around with our nervous systems just fried.
Yeah, it's hyper.
We all have just fried nervous systems, and we call that normal. And we're like, oh, I need a vacation. We don't get enough sleep. We don't get enough water. We know everyone's walking around dehydrated. Everywhere we go, that's the first thing, you go to the doctor, first thing they do is get a bag, saline going when you get into the hospital. Yeah. And it's because we're walking around dehydrated, we're walking around malnourished, we're eating crap food. We're drinking, we're living off of iced coffee,
And think about, why are we eating all those malnutrition foods? Like, why
dopamine hits.
Yeah, because coffee has caffeine in it and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is all for dopamine hits.
Now, when you're conscious, drinking coffee could be fun. We're not here to get rid of that. We're not denouncing anything. We're not denouncing any of it. But what state am I in when I'm trying to move towards this? Am I drinking the coffee because I want to... I want to experience the cup of coffee. Am I doing it because I'll I'll be awake for the meeting. I'm like, well, and then you're in the meeting. I should have had 2. And then you're halfway through the meeting. Hey, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom.
That's exactly the shit that's running through all of our heads all the time.
Rather than drinking the cup of coffee and just enjoying it like it's the last meal you're going to have before you die. Mm-hmm. That's the brilliance of it. So we're not here to denounce any of that stuff, but understand, why am I wanting the cup of coffee? Why am I wanting to go to the gym? Why am I wanting to eat that cake? Those are the questions you should ask yourself. This is what this does. It wakes you up and now you're conscious. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you don't. But when you don't have a good enough answer, just hold off for a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. And when you hold off a couple of minutes, you notice your energy comes back, Because like if you were trying to stop eating garbage food, all right? People always start with food and they think, okay, I'm going to focus on eating salads. I'm like, you're eating a salad and you're trying to think you're eating a chocolate cake. I'm like, that's not going to work because your body's craving it. You got like these, you got yeast in your body, especially if you're used to sugar, and it's overriding your willpower at times, right? So if you can just will yourself 5-10 minutes, not like I'm never eating sugar again, or for a week or whatever. Maybe a week you can put it, do that. And after a while, after 3 days, you're not craving it because the yeast in your body minimizes to where it's not pulling at you. These are good things to do. But now when I choose to eat something, it's a choice. And I realize I can do this at will because 5% of our life is conscious. Can we take that conscious level up to 6%? And there is a way to work at it. So, in other words, when I start to feel agitated, which happens all day, every day, I don't express it anymore like I used to. I literally take a breath in, and the agitation dissipates, right? And I'll keep doing it. So now I had to consciously, by will, breathe in. And what I noticed is, throughout my day, the level of agitation diminished. And then I notice my life's path is moving quicker, if you will. Like things are happening at a better rate in a way. And it's not even saying I need this to happen or that to happen. Things don't bother me as much. When something bothers me, I don't try to mitigate it through getting rid of it. I just like, why is this bothering me? That's a great question, Because if someone sold you the idea on Neville Goddard's idea, and then they told you this is a successful life, having at least $5 million in the bank account, liquid and assets this way, and having like 3.5 kids or whatever. I never understood when they said 0.5 kids. I'm like, But anyway,
half a kid.
It's like there's a half a kid somewhere in this house. Maybe they're halfway out the door or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
All of a sudden, you're doing all the work, and in these moments, you feel great reading the book like like Power of Awareness. You feel really good, but all of a sudden, you start to look at your list. I'm like, hey, this shit hasn't come true. Something's wrong here. I'm like, because it wasn't necessarily part and parcel of your life at the moment, and maybe it is, but obviously right now. But if you're actually waiting for this to happen to finally understand what Neville Goddard was talking about, you'll never understand what Neville Goddard is actually talking about.
Well, you're suspended in a state of not having,
and that's where we come with the idea of purgatory.
So what do we expect to reflect if we're in a state of, hey, I'm supposed to have this? Then what are we communicating to this reflection? This reality that I don't have this, and so what's it going to reflect back? More of you don't have this. Yeah. And more feelings of lack. So it's such a paradox, but it's actually from this neutral state of not needing or wanting that things show up. Opportunity, money, job, relationship, all of the above. It's when we need something to happen is when we're pushing it further away. And we're not pushing it. It's more like, just like Neville was talking about in this reflection, it's going to reflect back to us where we're coming from. So we're saying, oh, I need this. All right. Universe mirror says, all right, here's more of you needing this, not you receiving this or you having this, but you needing this. Yeah. And so really what this whole experience is it's like a teaching hologram about what your state is and what you're experiencing and where you're coming from. And Frank and I were talking about this earlier today, and I now want us to dive a little bit deeper into this. This experience, right? It's like the greatest show on earth. It's all happening, you know. We're all playing our own roles.
It's the only show on earth.
Yeah, and it's your show, which is the crazy part, you know. And everyone's coming in playing their role in your experience and all of that. But let's talk about, remember how you were discussing like the masculine and feminine, like in music. I thought that was so profound, and I want you to share that with the audience, from our conversation this morning. You were talking about like a songwriter, and I thought that was a great analogy of what this reality is, which is, it is a reflection. This world is a mirror. So you were talking about how these songwriters, they'll write a song and they're talking about like a female, they're singing about this beautiful female, etc. When in reality, what we're doing in that experience, if you were to analyze it, is we're talking to ourselves. We're talking to, quote unquote, this feminine version of ourselves, us giving ourselves love.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, it's basically like so in whether poet or musician, which they're poets with music, pretty much. When an idea comes, and this might drive you nuts for a little bit, but now that's, if you listen, this is in your head. Every piece of music that any individual wrote was about their relationship with themselves, period. It wasn't somebody else. They utilized somebody else as a metaphor. They might not know that. So all of a sudden, in this moment in time, my attention went to somebody, my heart opened up, so these words came out. But yet the song still remains, and those people might not even be together anymore, right? But the song still remains. So everything that we say and everything we do for other people is a mere relationship I'm having with myself. So if I'm snarky with my wife, I'm snarky with myself. So why would I want to do that, right? What happens is I set a set of circumstance out there. If this happens, if someone challenged me on this, if this happens, all of a sudden I'm going to get defensive. Well, I just set the mirror up for someone to challenge me. And I'm going to get defensive. Why? Because that's the field I went into. Now I went into the place where there's rain, Seattle, but not expecting rain. That's the nutty part.
Exactly.
Right? So I go to the ocean and expect the desert. And I go to the desert and expecting the ocean. I'm like, that's the problem.
And that's where most of us reside, which is we're walking around,
I slip into that
pissed
throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're walking around pissed going, what the fuck? The world's supposed to be better. Like, as if, what are you talking about? You're walking around pissed off right now. Nothing can reflect back to you but your state.
Yeah. And so when we try to analyze and live life by, if I'm living on a mansion on the ocean, my life will be better than if I was living in a duplex in some other state. And I'm like, no, it's not a good way to look at it, because now you're in the act of comparison. All right. One can be more comfortable, have more viewpoints or whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. But when you start to look at it and examine, why would it be a problem for me to live in a 1-bedroom apartment opposed to a 5,000 square foot house? Why would it be problematic? Now ask yourself that question based on if it's in your experience or not. Like, if you're in a 1-bedroom apartment, why is it a problem? If you're in a 5,000 square foot house, you might be envious of the neighbor that has a 10,000 square foot house, Which you will be. Yeah, because I think with Jennifer Aniston, because, when I heard that story, take in consideration too, she's also around a lot of beautiful people because she's in Hollywood. So she's not comparing herself to what someone would call the average person. But to the average person, it's quite insulting,
Literally.
I'm like, everyone wants to be her or look like her and whatever. And
I would never identify myself as the average person.
I don't, Yeah, but I'm saying I get that, because we all bought into that program, because somewhere the world was trying to lead us into this area where we all conform. And they gave us a bar to reach. This is bar. I'm like, who set that bar, right? And that bar is such a limitation onto our world. It's unreal. So you think, and that's why people are stuck in that field. So as we start to let go of all these concepts and ideas, do it in a moment, because what the issue here is trusting in a direction, or trusting in yourself, or trusting in the system. Now, trust is not something we have to work on. Bashar says this all the time, and it's brilliant. What are you trusting in? Do you trust that it won't work? If you trust it won't work, you won't experience it. If you trust in it will, you'll let go, and you'll experience the moment right now without looking at the accolade of what happened. If you're still waiting to see if you won the fight by the gold medal, rather than how did you feel during the competition, that's all I need. And it comes down to the whole adage. It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. But we still have this weird caveat, but you still got to win. I'm like, what? And that's what messes us up. We're still chasing that. And I hear people talking about this that actually are in these places of high accolades. They have money and all this stuff, and they realize their peace is their number one value. Mm-hmm. And they're working through it. They find it. So they don't have to get rid of their money. It's not like that. You don't need to do that. But they realize the money never made them happy. What made them happy was letting go of needing money to make them happy. When you trust that it works, so I tell people, just do it in little increments. Like, do it for 5 minutes. And notice that your heart will open up. I'm like, oh, I feel better. Well, when you feel better, people invite you to their circle, and you're going to make more money if you're selling something, right? Because a lot of times people are selling something, it's not the thing, because you can buy it online. It's the person selling it. Are they genuine? Are they pushy? Whatever. If they're pushy, it means they don't believe they can sell it. That's the fact. But if they're like, yeah, buy it or not, like this will work, it means they know. They're not going to force it. All of a sudden, that's the person you're going to deal with. So when you become at a peaceful state, you're going to notice more and more people coming around. They attract that attention because you're raising to a higher level.
Exactly.
And at these higher levels, you realize, I don't need anything. But you don't deny the outside world. You don't deny the experience. Like, no one needs to go to Disneyland, but you go. But if you need to go to Disneyland, it's a rough life. And then you get there and it's raining.
The lines are long.
And now it's funny. Now, like, people are like, oh, you gotta get the fast pass. Now they have this other thing. I'm like, all of a sudden the fast pass is a 2-hour line. I'm like,
it literally is.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you're paying extra money for that.
Yeah.
And then, like, the guy's like, fuck, I'm just gonna go buy a ticket and just whatever. And he goes online. It's probably the shortest line. Now the fast pass. Like, when I went to the
it's funny.
To the what do you call it? To the last time I was at the airport.
Yeah.
And it was early, and it wasn't that many. But people that were in what the hell's that new thing you could get?
Oh shit.
It's not the I forgot what it's called. It's a company.
You're talking about like the travel ID thing?
It's where you can skip in line. You do this background check, whatever. Well, the line there, because people had it, so like, I'm going to use it. And I'm like, the line I was in was shorter. It wasn't too busy, but I'm like, just go in the shorter line. Like, no, I'm going. I pay for this thing. I'm going to use it.
Got to use it.
So at some point, I'm like, when 50% of the people at the airport have that thing, well, the line's going to be equal on both sides. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start to look back and just relax, everything flows, everything moves, everything happens in accordance, right? Mm-hmm. The more relaxed we are, the more responsive we are. The more responsive we are, the more things work out. Things are going to happen. But why are they problematic? Did anyone ever ask why? We're going to figure out there's a problem that the sun's too hot. And what do we do about that? How do you mitigate that? Sunglasses.
Oh, don't worry about it. Bill Gates is working on some sort of cloud thing that's supposed to stop global warming or something and block out the sun.
I remember hearing stuff like when I was young. It must have been the 80s. Like I was probably in high school, and I didn't hear the whole story, but I just thought it's funny and ridiculous at the same time. They wanted to heat up like the North Pole, like Antarctica and stuff like that. So they were thinking about putting mirrors in to reflect the sun. And I'm thinking, like, how are they going to get to keep these mirrors in the sky? Like, because I'm like, it was probably like in orbit, out of orbit, I should say. Or, and I'm thinking like, really? Like, thinking like, that's a lot of work. Why not just move to Florida?
It's a lot of work.
Let's go to Florida. It's a lot easier, and, obviously they never did that, but can you imagine?
Yeah.
They did that. Like, and now like the ice caps are melting. Like, oh shit, thank God we didn't put those mirrors up, right?
Thank God. It's so funny, the different narratives on all sides. What I've realized is everybody's right, everybody's wrong. The world is black and the world is white, and it's every shade in between at the exact same time. And that's when that clicked for me, that everything is right and everything is wrong. I saw it everywhere. And I was like, man, we're just walking around, oh, this is my narrative and this is how I operate. And it's just so funny because on the other side, just on the other side of that coin or the other side of that hill is the exact opposite person, living their life, according to their terms, and we're all operating on this field, and we like pretend that we all live on this like absolute planet that we're operating by all the exact same and experiencing the exact same, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
No, because we know very little. I don't care how smart you are. The smartest people will recognize that, but this is why they get the hunger or thirst for exploration. Once you know it all, exploration's done, and then what you do is you have to defend your knowing. So a lot of religions have done that. So think about like when religion came out, like Christianity over 2,000 years ago, and then Catholicism came into play as what we understand the first church or first religion. Well, they had to maintain for 2,000 years this ideology. But then Martin Luther came along and says like, hey, I don't like the way they're doing stuff here, so I'm going to break off and create Lutheranism and then Protestant. And now we have these Bible-based, churches. So what's happening is people are reading the scripture, and because of their experience, they're creating a different narrative. But be careful not to solidify that either, because it's always moving, it's always shifting, it's always, every day a new experience comes in. And I have to let go of the idea to go into another one and realize, get to life. I'm like, I don't know. But when I'm trying to hold on to a narrative and capture something and say, this is absolute truth, my body gets tense and I don't even enjoy the experience. And then I'm trying to blame somebody for having an opposing viewpoint. So this is how politics run. And if I could get rid of them, I could finally be at peace. I'm like, no, because if you look at both parties right now in the United States in the political arena, if we go back 50 years ago and you take like the same way they think and over it, you wouldn't know who Republican or Democrat. Like the ultra liberals now are putting swastikas places. I'm like, what's going on in the world? And these liberals are supposed to, and they're telling people they can't say certain words. If they do, they're going to demonize them. I'm like, that was the party of the far right years ago. It's like, what is happening? It's because I'm trying to find where the ultimate truth is. And guess what? Now I'm trying to make everyone believe in my ultimate truth. So if you believe that you're this person or that person, go for it. But stop making other people have to believe it. Don't do that. It won't work. Because my beliefs and my experience, and I get to a point where I drop beliefs. There's knowing and there's unknowing. And I'm led into new experiences where I don't know. And once I have the experience, I only know a fraction of it, a little part of it. It's not done because it's not complete. All of a sudden, my experience doesn't negate Mike's, nor does Mike's negate somebody else's, because we don't interfere. So at this higher place, you see that. But when you're down here, you're fighting because you don't want your way of life to disappear. I'm like, your way of life is going to disappear. Just like my 18-year-old body disappeared a long time ago. And it wasn't abducted. It was,
in some cases,
it just slipped away. It was like the snake's skin just came off me. And when you start to understand, the only thing that will never escape me, can never be abducted, is the witnesser of my 18-year-old and the witnesser of me sitting in this room with Mike right now. That is truth. That never changes. But we're talking about these instances of like experiences out here, and it's like, oh, look what we discovered. Like the big news today in the news is in the pyramids.
Oh, yeah.
Giza,
I'm glad you bring this up.
They found these coil-like structures that run about 600 meters down, which,
it's nuts.
Yeah, that's what, like 1,800 feet.
That's crazy.
Down. But then below that goes like almost 2 kilometers of structures, right? So we're finding new things out as it is. Where when I was young, I remember I was lucky enough, I think it was in 5th or 6th grade, that the King Tut exhibit was in New York.
Oh, hell yeah.
And we went there, and it took over the whole museum. I've never seen so much gold and ridiculous shit in my life as a kid.
That's probably really cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, where's the snack bar? And my teacher's like, you don't understand what you're seeing right now. I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, here's a mummy over there.
Sweet.
Yeah. But we believe that the tombs back in the day were, the pyramids were tombs. And then we're finding out that they all weren't tombs, and a lot of them weren't. They were energy centers. And now we're believing now with these coils, they were power generation, like almost like a nuclear power plant without the effect of it blowing up and killing everybody.
Yeah, without the nuclear.
So and this information was just released on the 16th of March.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Based on whenever you listen to the show. So the 16th of March of 2025. Mm-hmm. All right. So these people that discovered it obviously knew beforehand, but they were looking into it, and they discovered it. So what is it? Now you're getting people trying to analyze it, what it is. Like, they don't know. Mm-hmm. So everything they knew before that is gone.
Flipped upside down.
So, but the brilliant people I listen to have the capacity to let go and then move into this other place and and they talk in soft tone, like, this is what it is. Like this one guy, Chris Anderson, I forgot his name. Mm-hmm. He was a person I think I said
on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, no, Jay Anderson. No, he was on Joe Rogan.
Okay,
I think it's Jay Anderson. Hopefully, I didn't get it wrong. But
yeah.
He's a guy came up, and like I was listening. I found a couple different clips of him talking about it in different podcasts and stuff like that. And he's like, he was just like, okay, what can it be? Obviously he's really into stuff. He's really well educated in it. And he's like, maybe it's like a staircase spiral down to something. Again, I don't know what it is. My thought was like, why didn't they put an elevator in? Why make these people walk?
With all that energy, you think they'd have enough to power it.
But it's a new discovery on this planet. We've been here for a long time.
And a massive discovery too, guys.
And according to some people, they say, why aren't we finding about this now? Because people in intellect studies that are teaching this type of stuff, if they change the narrative, they could be looked at as frauds. So they have to maintain this. But I'm like, no. And even if you hold on to this finding and run with it, I'm like, you'll be held a fraud too. You have to keep an open mind. This is very interesting. Again, it's like reading one page in a book and trying to explain the book. Mm-hmm. Keep reading. Don't try to explain the book until you see the end. And then even after the end, it's like, now you have to go back and Now more experience that I have, the book that I looked at many years ago, I look at it different. It never freaking ends. It keeps folding in on each other. It really does. I don't know how many times I've read Power of Awareness or verses of the Bible. And every time I read them, it's different.
What's that one quote by that gentleman who said essentially like history changes, with every person that passes or with every death? Do you remember that?
That was not history. That was science. That was Niels Bohr.
Oh, yeah, Niels Bohr. That's it.
He said, if I'm getting it right, science advances one funeral at a time.
Yeah, one funeral at a time. And he's right. And it's exactly what you're saying. They got to fight to the end about my life's work.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to let go.
Yeah, and look at every scientist and every person on the planet as like a step. Mm-hmm. And a spiral. Then you're like, where is this step going? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's an experiential thing, because it's illusion. It's an illusion, and the experience is real. So a lot of times when people say illusion, like, no, I'm like, the experience is real, but we don't really know what's happening. Mm-hmm. We once thought the atom was the smallest particle, and then we realized they broke it apart, and there's electrons, neutrons, and protons, and then
And beyond that,
go and bosons now, and all these other things. I'm not a scientist, so there might be even so every new scientist will come along with a new piece of equipment and oh my God, we found something even smaller. But as Alan Watts said, they're just wiggles. They're just wiggles of different.
Gonna keep wiggling.
Yeah, the world is a bunch of wiggles. And we give our attention to something. We take these wiggles and we make a car out of it. We make the ocean out of it, or we see we didn't make the ocean, but we recognize it. We see it. And what I mean is, when light comes through, if you look at this mug right here, well, if you listen to it,
it's just Spotify, vibrating wiggles.
Well, it's light, but the light itself doesn't become the mug. The mug itself is a certain frequency. The light itself just allows it to be. The light still maintains the light. So we are the witnesser of the crazy shit that's going on in this world, or the lovely stuff going on in the world. But the thing that's witnessed it doesn't become it. Just like the movie screen doesn't get imbued by the movie. Once the movie's over, it goes back to being its whole white state of just a screen. Mm-hmm. And we remember that's who we are. This is how you can get to the place where you don't get overwhelmed. And then present the movie in which you came here to present.
That's exactly it.
Do it. And remember that. And just do it in increments, because it's learning about trusting that your path is right. And what I've learned is, what I know now in this short area, where when I'm moving along, and I'm feeling good, and I'm acting out on stuff like that, and then someone comes along and distracts me and say, you should be doing this. And if I feel bad, it's my internal guidance system, if it's calibrated right. Because if it's not, I could get a mixed reading too. So these are things we have to have discernment about. All of a sudden I realize, no, that might come down the road for me. I don't know. Maybe that's why it's being presented. And it's not that the person made me feel bad. It was thinking I'm doing something wrong is why I felt bad. I'm like, no, you're moving in this right direction. Why I felt bad is I think I needed it now. I'm like, no, maybe someone presented it, because a lot of times people presented things to me. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And 5 years later, it popped into my life. So it was like, oh, wow. And then all of a sudden you have this synchronistic moment, right? And that's really all it is. So when someone offers something, I don't deny it. But if I'm eating a sandwich and someone's like, you want some fries? I'm like, well, save them for later, because I got a sandwich in my mouth. I'm not denying them, but at the same time, I'm not shoving it in my mouth. I'm like, keep those damn fries away from me. Can't you see them eating? Because once you finish the sandwich, like, hey, where are those fries?
Exactly.
So things are presented into your life, but don't get so freaked out over it if it's, don't get distracted by it. Because it may materialize, it may not. But just stay open to it. And this way you won't be a doormat. You'll be moving in the right direction. The outward world will look at you as having accolades and experience, but realizes, what's your secret? My secret is I'm always maintaining how I feel. Because if I'm maintaining how I feel, I have more energy to go do stuff, to go put things together. But I tell you what, when I have no energy, the simplest tasks are very difficult. And I remember being frustrated one day, but I had to go do something. And I realized, oh my God. I remember years ago, I'm like, I shouldn't be in this position. I can't even muster doing this. But now it's like, no, I'm like, I have to get out of this state in order to realize this is not even a problem. But somehow I got into that state. But now I'm aware of it. But I need to relinquish myself and get into a state where this thing is not even a problem. And that's we're never going to be perfect at it, but those alarms that go off for me, the frustration, that's like, oh, there's smoke in your kitchen. Deal with it. And next time you won't get distracted while you're cooking, and it won't happen. That's what I do know. But everything else, I'm like, it's just a new adventure, a new experience. So I can't solidify and this is the way to get to here. I'm like, no. That's why a lot of the great teachers are very, can seem esoteric, Mm-hmm. Like Jesus didn't say, do 50 push-ups and 30 pull-ups and 100 sit-ups to maintain your body, If he did, we would be in a great shape. He was
We don't be following.
He asked Jesus a question. He's like, well, what do you think you should do? And like, son of a bitch.
Exactly.
But the reason is the brilliance of that is there isn't one answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I may do something today this way and tomorrow this way. So I no longer, at least I should say, when I'm unconscious, I do it because my wife hears it. No one else hears it. I make these grand statements. I make these grand gestures. And she's so used to it, she doesn't even listen anymore. You know?
But you're making proclamations on Sunday morning?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, like, I'm never eating cookies again, you know? Yeah, that's it.
Damn it.
And then I tell her because she does the shopping. It's like, stop buying cookies. And she goes, I've heard that too many times before. And she goes, okay. And then what she'll do is she'll buy them. She'll just put them on that side of the cabinet to where she realizes I can't see them because I'm like blind. Like if something, right? No, it's
just
true.
Changes your point.
Like even in the freezer, if she moves the ice cream from one end, I don't see it. And the freezer's not that big. Like, come on. Like, I shouldn't buy ice cream. Like today, I found the cookies when I was getting ice out.
Exactly.
It was right behind the ice.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, oh, that sneaky little woman.
No one had never figured this out.
Now I have to get rid of them so I don't eat them tonight. So and I don't yell at her. I'm like, yeah. She's like, and all she did was move them to the left. It wasn't like she put anything over it. And she realized he's a squirrely guy. He won't find him.
It says a lot about the masculine energy out there. Just immediate focus.
But so when I go to declare something, I stop. I'm like, why am I doing this? I think if I stop doing this, my life will be great. It won't. Recognizing my life is great and it has challenges in it. It has things. I'm not saying sit on the couch and just lose your shit and eat Cheetos all day.
No.
That's not fun, people. But when that energy comes in, I may sit on the couch and meditate for 2 hours, or I might go to the gym and work out for 3. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, and then I'm interacting with the world, and all of a sudden opportunities come, and I do that, and each opportunity supports the next opportunity, and supports the next opportunity, supports the next opportunity, and all of a sudden my whole life was supported. My whole life's actually ever been supported.
It always has been. Yeah.
You know what was funny? I was talking to a guy at the gym the other day, yesterday, and we started laughing. And he's like, my body's hurting and stuff like that. And I think like I'm getting older and like his shit's going downhill. He goes, but then I see a heroin addict on the street. I'm like, look what he can go through. I can deal with this shit. So it took him to look at some homeless guy with a needle in his arm to realize what the human body can go through, for him to let go of that story.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he let go of a good story.
Yeah, and then we started laughing about it because, it's great. Like, like a lot of us will compare ourselves to somebody else that looks better, what we consider to look better in the gym, and they have a better world. But then it's like when you go to the person that you consider that has it worse off than we do, something happens. But I'm here to play the game of don't try to compare yourself to the richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world, because they're both going to bite you in the ass in the end. Because if you can able to focus on the poorest person in the world to make yourself feel rich, the pendulum has to come back. Because now you're stuck in the act of comparison. Exactly. And then the richest dude will come next to you and you're like, fuck. Mm-hmm. And then now you're actually owned by the pendulum. Because the duality world swings in both directions. What goes up must come down. But why do you give a shit if something comes down? Why does it bother you? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
That is the question.
And because when you hear the word, the stock market went down, I'm like, well, you can buy more stocks now for a cheaper price.
Everything's on sale.
When you breathe in, you got to breathe out. You don't freak out over that, do you? Yeah, try breathing in for the rest of your life. Yeah, don't breathe out. Just try doing it. And, let me know how far you got.
It's funny. We walk around with all these, ifs, ands, or buts and conditions.
We walk around with this 50% of life. Mm-hmm. In other words, so if they do this thing, if I flip a quarter 100 times, somewhere in the range, not in a row and not equally, but somewhere in the range, it'll be 50-50. There's some dynamic out there. So if you're living in a duality world and this has to happen, well, 50% of the time that's going to happen. What a fucking life you're going to live.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be real disappointed.
Rather than if it lands on heads or tails, who cares? Like I go first, so I go second this time.
That's the quantum realm.
Yeah. You still flip the quarter to see who kicks the ball up first. But if you're the receiver, it's like, or you get to choose. who cares? I'm going to try to win the game. Like, oh shit. 'Cause they do studies like, hey, whoever I think it's receives, most of the times wins the game or kicks off. I forgot how it may change. So all of a sudden you're like, hey, we want to be the receiving or the, and all of a sudden, if that gets into your psyche, that ain't going to help your game. That's like it's like coming to the field hungover. Mm-hmm. Get rid of that. Because when you have a preconceived belief, what we call, what are those, when you believe in something, oh my God.
Trying to think.
Like a rabbit's foot.
You're like a, I know what you're talking about.
Jesus.
I know what you're trying to say.
Superstition.
Thank you. Superstition.
They're no longer superstitions. They're stupid-stitions.
I like that.
Again, holding on to a rabbit's foot reminds you're lucky. There's nothing wrong with that. But once you think you have to get something and it doesn't come your way, your energy field changes, and then you're taken out of the game from day one. Mm-hmm. And then you say, well, it's because we didn't get the heads. Mm-hmm. Like, really? I'm like, you defined getting heads, and all of a sudden your nervous system got out of whack. Mm-hmm. And maybe somewhere along the game you forgot about it and your energy's changed and you won. I'm like, then you go, maybe if we get tails. Now you're like, maybe it was tail. I had it all wrong all along. I'm like, no, these are all superstitions.
Isn't that crazy how we bounce around in our heads like that all day?
Well, we feel the need to tell a story to why we got what we have. Mm-hmm. I could tell a story from where I was to how I got here, but I can't take that story and jam it to my future. And then every time I tell the story, it gets embellished. And I like to tell it in a humorous way. Like, I'll tell people stories and they'll laugh. Some people are like, why is that funny? Like, for one, I lived it
that way.
I lived it. So, you can't be sad for me,
Because I'm sharing it.
And it's funny because if you grew up like any time, like in the 70s, maybe early 80s, and earlier than that, like hearing these stories, how parents treat us, we fucking laugh our asses off, Mm-hmm. I was listening to a guy talking about, his name is Tim Kennedy. He's a Green Beret, and he was a UFC fighter. The guy's like a genuine badass. And he was telling the story how his mom walked around with wooden spoons, like on a belt or something. I started laughing because I got hit in the head with a wooden spoon by my mom. Like, it was the weapon of choice with moms back in the fucking day. And it's funny. But no one would consider that. Like, he was telling a story about how his father was teaching his son how to shoot. And the kid grabbed the gun and went to put the finger on the trigger. And the father's like, okay. And he calmly said, like, no. If you're not ready to pull the trigger, keep it out. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Dad, you kicked me in the head when I did that. Like you didn't tell me nicely. You kicked me in the head.
Literally.
And like, people are like, that's cool. I'm like, no, it's kind of funny because it's no longer here.
Exactly.
And, now the grandfather of this child is now teaching the kid in a different way. He's like, well, that was back then.
Exactly.
It is funny though.
It's a different time.
But the act of still teaching how to shoot accurately, that never changed, right? Mm-hmm. It's the delivery system that's changing, how we're delivering it, right?
And we've watched and witnessed that change over the years.
But the wooden spoon, I tell you, it worked. It worked. Like, yeah. The next time I saw it look at my mom, I just shut my mouth quickly.
Yeah, you just know.
Yeah, she didn't have to pull the gun anymore. Like, I've been
That's too funny.
Yeah. So when we can look at everything as good, because we're trying to make the world a better place by making choices now, and then you have to define what's a better place. Where's your morality stand? You can mess it up because Hitler really thought he was making the world a better place. Mm-hmm. He just thought it needed to get rid of the Jewish people and people that didn't believe with him. And if you were in his inner circle and you bought into it, you would think it was real.
Isn't that crazy?
Why it's a problem? It's because you're trying to change the outside world in order to have a peaceful inner world. Mm-hmm. That will never work. So everyone's trying to get, like, even the United States, globally, we went around trying to create what we call democracies or republics around the world. And in some places, it worked, I guess. We don't know. In some places, it created terrorism. All right. Now we're trying to combat terrorism. And if you talk to terrorism, they would say they're a freedom fighter, And the built up anger. I'm not saying what they do is right. I'm not excusing it at all, because it doesn't work, by the way. Strapping a bomb to yourself and walking to a cafe doesn't get rid of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get to these higher levels and see that, hey, my ideas are my ideas in the moment, and they're going to shift over time, but they should not and will not negate somebody else's unless we believe they do, and then we don't live our lives. We live on the battlefield. We didn't come here to battle. But we war so our future can have a peaceful time. I'm like, we have to become a little more peaceful, all right? But we have to back out of it as a society. I'm not here, like, the whole defunding something. That doesn't work, because first you have to stop the criminals, right? But my job, my work is, and I hold myself to it, is I get to a higher level. I can help pull people up. I stay there. Things still anger me, but anger doesn't help me, so I have to get out of there. And I notice more and more of the world is becoming more peaceful, which then shines a light on things that we don't accept, right? It does. So people and because of the ability to gain so much access to information, we think the whole world is this way. I'm like, no, it's not. But how do we address these new ideas? Well, if you're the soldier on the battlefield, you got to do what you got to do to get off the battlefield. Like, again, that's appropriate there. But what are we doing here to help the soldier get home unscathed? So we don't yell at the soldier for what they're doing, because they didn't create this shit. We support the soldier. But how do then my position get up here to help the soldier out? Like, that's a whole kit. That's a whole thing. What's your part in it? Because blaming other people is not going to stop the pain inside. All right? And that's what we're seeing in politics. And it's almost like this weird righteousness. Mm-hmm. People that blame other people and get angry at other people because of this. I'm like, God. Mm-hmm. I'm like, really? Don't you have control over your emotions?
That's
but things still play out. Like, I don't judge anymore because I can't. I don't know enough to judge. I really don't. I barely know enough to have this podcast going.
But that's where we need to be coming from, which is from non-judgment. Stop trying to classify everything. Yeah. Stop trying to put this group with that group, and realize that that's not the way of life.
Yeah, and me going to a higher level isn't so I separate from this. Mm-mm. It's so I can have a broader view to see, and this is where when you go to a higher level, so to speak, and this higher level is looking down at me too, like, so it all works in conjunction. Compassion hits me. Now, I have compassion, but I realize, hey, that's not going to work for them to keep doing that. It's going to be their demise. But my compassion is not judgment. I understand why they're there. I understand why the terrorist does what they do. They're so looped into some mind virus that they think the only way to, where is the goal here? Like, and some of the goal is to just die and I'll be rewarded on the other side. And every religion has this, by the way. I'm like, well, what about here? Like, how can I back out of this here? So I understand why they get into that mind virus as compassion there. But if I get angry and pick up something, and I wasn't meant to, it just keeps justifying it. All right? So if someone throws a punch at me, I've learned to duck now and move out of the way. And after a while, they get tired of punching. All right? Now, I might be suited for that. Some other people are suited to where I have to punch back. I would never tell the person that punched back they shouldn't have done that, because now I know more than they do, and I don't. But I happen to be in that position that seemed to work at me, right? I remember was it last week you talked about, like, would you have the ability to kill somebody?
Oh, yeah.
Like, every human being has the ability to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. I've never been in a position where I had to. Came close at times. At least in my head I did. But I never had it never came away, it never came about. It wasn't part and parcel of my story just yet, But people always like, what if someone did something to your son? And I'm like, well, yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, but that hasn't happened yet. Like, you know, but it doesn't. Because if I say I would never kill somebody and then I had to, I have a dilemma on my hands. Mm-hmm. I don't want dilemmas. I'm not looking to kill somebody either. And I bring this down to that level to show you the only way to get to this level is to understand this level fully. Because if you just shove that level away, you're just faking up here. You really don't even know what's happening here. And there's where the non-judgment, that's what Jesus talked about. You can't judge because you don't know. Mm-hmm. Who throws the first stone. Who hasn't sinned may throw the first stone or whatever. And it's like, yeah, everyone just dropped the rocks out of their hands because knowing that. You ever hear that joke where Jesus says that and he gets hit in the head with a rock and he's like, Mother, I hate when you do that. Yeah.
See, that's perfect.
It is. But the idea that somebody actually has a capacity to throw a stone because they haven't done anything, the throwing of the stone is the thing they did so they can't throw it.
Exactly.
And when you really seep that in there, it's very difficult to judge. Yeah, you recognize when things aren't working. So what's my role in mitigating it? Well, one isn't judging it. One is recognize, yeah, if I was there, I'd be doing that. What do I need to do to not do that? Well, do that. Use examples in life. And don't hold anyone to the value that they have to follow your example, because then you'll become a cult leader. We don't need any more of those either. And then I have to check myself. Every day I have to check, A lot of times I'm checking. I'm like, what the, But I know, I say it time and time again, when I feel out of sorts, first I can go into the understanding, which we call non-duality. There's an observer that's watching it that isn't affected. I could slip into that. Second, going slightly more indirect way is breathing. It's always with you. There are other indirect ways, like meditation. When I say that, because I can't be meditating, well, I can, but the way of understanding, closing your eyes when I'm driving. But I can certainly breathe. I could do a box breathing. I could do any type of breathing when I'm driving. Keeps me high alert, and it gets my nervous system back to homeostasis where it's more parasympathetic. And then from there, I'm utilizing energy very efficiently, and I feel better. If I feel better, I act in the moment in which I'm in greater. That I do know. When I feel good, everything around me is easier to deal with, even if it's deemed to be a problem. If I don't feel good, even what's not a problem becomes a problem. Like taking out the garbage, like, oh my God. Like, why is that a problem? Like, literally. Because I'm tired and my mind is, I'm thinking too much and I don't have the capacity. Like, really? People can't clean their houses because, So that's how we know if we're out of sorts. The simplest things, people can't even make a sandwich to feed themselves because they're in such, I'm like, when is making a sandwich a problem? Mm-hmm. So when you recognize I can't even make a sandwich a problem, it's like all of a sudden you want to give up on life. And I'm like, no, you're in a bad state, my friend. Get out of that state. It's going to be uncomfortable breathing, but staying in that state is way more uncomfortable than sitting there breathing or going for work or, going to the gym. You'll break right through it. And then you realize that was a silly ass thought. Then you go home and make a sandwich.
That's exactly.
I don't even eat sandwich. I don't even keep talking about sandwiches. That was a thing of the past for me. I should never say never, right?
I think this was a good episode because it kind of laid out, the fundamentals, the assumptions we have, how they affect our day-to-day life, our state, how we feel, what we're projecting. So I hope this episode really resonates with those listening, because when you understand these fundamentals, this is when everything really starts to change. You're going to see opportunities open up. You're going to see, different behavior from family, friends, loved ones, your partner. So get out there and be the change you want to see in the world. Change the state and watch the reality change.
Yeah, and notice when you do, and you got to hold on to this, you might be alone for a little bit. Because like when you're going from one floor to the next floor, you're alone in the stairwell. Sometimes there is somebody coming with you. Sometimes there's not. But notice when you get to that next floor, the people will be there. So get used to being alone too, and know that's a great, great moment. Don't be scared of being alone.
Yeah.
Because that's what people don't want to be alone. So they short-side themselves and they stay in the place they know. And the purpose we came here is to expand into nuances of experiences. I'm not here to say what those experiences are, because I don't even know what they are for me, beyond this point.
Yeah.
But so if you're not used to being alone, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's okay. Discomfort is our friend. It shows that we're doing something.
That's exactly it. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. If you like what you heard, please click the subscribe button below. Next week, we will be live. We're doing the first Monday live events on Perspective Shift. So if you guys want to tune in, come join us. You can ask questions. You can interface with us in real time. And we're excited to see you guys next Monday.
Yeah, peace out. Hey, if anyone actually listens here in the Phoenix area, on every first Wednesday of the month, I do a breathwork class at 6 p.m. at 4025 East Chandler Boulevard. So if anyone's in the area, it's in the Phoenix area. It's on 40th and Chandler Boulevard in Ish Salon. It's my salon. So I hold it there. It's completely complimentary. So I don't know if anyone from the Phoenix area is listening.
And I'll
but
see
the
you
time
there.
you get this message, it might be over. But just know this, every first Wednesday at 6 o'clock. All right? All right. Much love and peace out.
See you guys next week.